Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning is one of the most underrated games and one of my most favourite RPG or action RPG games that has ever existed. I bought this game back in 2012 just on a complete whim, and it turned out to be one of the greatest games I have played. I genuinely love this game so much. But just before I get into ranting about one of my favourite ever action RPG games, if you could just quickly like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more retro gaming and just general gaming content. At the time of this video releasing, I am currently playing through all of the Metal Gear Solid games, including live streams. So I have videos coming out pretty much week daily. So if you want to stay up to date with all of the stuff that I'm doing on this channel and all of the games that I'm buying and my collection, you can head over to my Instagram where I post daily pictures of all of my gaming collection. That Instagram is just Retro Gaming Goose. Or subscribe to the channel where I'm just going to be posting all of my videos and all of my gameplay videos and my live streams. But thank you so much. Anyway, back to the actual video. So Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning came out in 2012 as an action roleplay game developed by Big Huge Games and was also published by 38 Studios. We'll get into that in a minute because that's a whole other thing. Originally, it was released for PC, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, but recently got a re-release on the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4 and Xbox One called, and this is just the most stupid name ever, Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning. For complete transparency, the footage that you are seeing at the moment is the Switch Re-Reckoning version, just because this game's quite hard to find and I couldn't find my original 360 copy, so I just went for the next best thing, which had all of the DLC and some extra DLC that wasn't out at the time. So if you're thinking about buying it, probably pick up the Re-Reckoning edition. It's a lot better, it runs a little bit smoother and just looks a bit nicer. Now, I'm going to be completely honest, I had no idea about this game before I bought it in 2012. The main reason that I bought this game is because it came with a playable demo of Mass Effect 3. That was literally it. And one of the coolest cross promotions ever, that if you played Mass Effect 3, you had like a special unlock weaponry, like Shepard armor in this game. Like you had like the N7, like a knight version of the N7 armor in this game. And on the flip side, in Mass Effect 3, you had Reckoning armor, which was like a knight's armor, and you had like the Chutra things, what you see on the back of my character there, but as like a shotgun. It was awesome. They were overpowered in both games. Like both of them items were like overpowered. But getting down to the actual gameplay of this game, it is your standard action RPG. However, it's not. You can customize your character. Like in terms of like general gameplay, you're talking to characters, you're taking on quests, normal like RPG stuff. But when you get into like your character building, it is insane the level of customization that you have in this game. I'll go a bit further into that in a bit, but it is wild how much you can make your character just a monster. And this game has such a good way of making your character feel powerful, to feel like that chosen one. Now, the story to this game is also a bit strange. So the game is set in the world of Amalur, I can never know if I'm pronouncing it properly. Amalur. It's going to change every time I say it. And the game sort of takes place in the Feylands, and this is like your sort of Courts of Thorns and Roses sort of Fey, not just like a fairy. And the Fey are doing all this like typical thing where like everything's doomed and they're going to go away for a long time, which is like basically what elves do in every sort of RP like fantasy genre. They just decide like, oh, woe is me, I'm going to travel to the west. The Fey are doing the same thing, except for another group of Fey called the Takara, who are like raging war because they're immortal, so they can just kill everything and no one can kill them, which makes an interesting dynamic because they're not like, there's like this full thing in the game about like fate, and everyone has a preset destiny and when they will die, when they won't die, things like that. And all of the Takara know that they just won't die in battle. However, your character is something called a fateless, which means, or the fateless one, the protagonist is a fateless one basically, and you can make up your own destiny, which builds into that RPG mechanic of being able to just completely customize your character as to how you want to do it. At the start of the game, they were reanimated from when they died by like basically this world's version of Dr. Frankenstein, except for you're not really like a patched together zombie, you just brought back to life like a resurrection thing. And because you're already fated to have died, and you have done, you've come back as the fateless one, the one that has no fate and can do whatever they want. Pretty cool mechanic. It explains why your character is like jack of all trades. Like there is a narrative reason as to why your character can just do everything and is super powerful. But one of the most insane things as you go through the game, one of the most craziest things in any writing of any game, is that the coming of the fateless one is foretold by prophecy, which in itself is just lunacy. Like, how can someone that has no fate and no prophecy be foretold to become it? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, look past it. That's just me getting involved in a game that's just about like smashing stuff up. The actual gameplay takes precedent as well in this game. The action RPG gameplay, you can basically use any weapon that you kind of want. You've got like your sort of standard long swords, you've got like great swords, hammers, bows, daggers, fey blades, charas, staffs, wands, and you can mix and match like 2 at a time, because you can like equip to primary and a secondary. And then you've got all of your random skills that you can have as well in the game. You have like 3 different trees of magic, or like not 3 different skill trees, should I say, which are might, magic, sorcery, and you can mix and match what skills you want. You have to pour a certain amount to get the better ones in, so it will say like you need 9 points of sorcery to be able to do this, and it's kind of how items work in the game as well. Certain items are geared up for wizards or like magic characters, certain items are geared up for like the stealthy ones, and then there's loads of items that are like a mix where it's like you must have so much might and so much sorcery to use this item. It works really well, and I do not understand why this game was not way more popular when it came out, because it is one of the best mechanics in a game. Like, you have to customize your character, you have to try new things, you have an ability just to like change whenever you want of like your skill set. Now, one of the things I do need to touch on is the development of this game was famously very troubled. I'm not going to go too much into the entire development of this game, because that would take ages. There are far better people on YouTube that have made much better in-depth videos as to why this game was a development nightmare. But just to summarize a very long story, basically there was a professional baseball player called Kurt Schindler who founded 38 Studios, or 38 Studios, whatever you want to call them. He had a lot of financial backing, not just from EA, but from also BioWare, and also, weirdly enough, the state that he was developing in. Like, he basically promised, like, oh, this studio open up will provide jobs, but we need state backing. Can't remember what state it was, but they provided him money. Somehow he managed to work with Salvatore and Todd McFarlane, who helped write the story, create the like the look of the game, the design of the characters, because they are very Todd McFarlane characters. Like, if you know anything about them sort of toys and figures and Spawn and things like that, they look very similar to that sort of style of like weird 90s gothic look. And yes, I am also talking about R.A. Salvatore, as in Robert Anthony Salvatore, the guy that wrote The Legend of Drizzt, like the D&D novels. He helped write this game, which is probably why the story is not only crazy but so good as well. But yeah, basically he had a lot of financial backing into the game, and then the game absolutely flopped. It took a couple of years to develop. Its production started in 2009, game was released in 2012, and was cross-promoted with Mass Effect 3, and worldwide the game sold about 500,000 copies. So it says here, like from the documents that I'm looking through at the moment in my research, it said that it sold about 400,000 copies to 500,000 globally. Biggest sales being in the UK, and then nowhere else. This is probably why I played this game a lot, because it was in the UK. Even with the cross promotion, not a lot of people went for this. If you want to know a full video explanation. It's about like 45 minutes long. Check out Matt Munculus is What Happened video. That has a much better in-depth discussion about the development of this game, and it's genuinely one of them crazy situations where you're like, how did anyone give this guy so much money to do what he did? Fascinating, genuinely fascinating. But I love this game. Just to retract my previous statement as well, I've just been looking through copies, but overall, since its release, the game has sold about 1.5 million copies worldwide. Bear in mind the game came out in 2012, and that final number was taken at the end of 2015, which is not a lot at all. It completely underperformed, and it led to the closure of 3.8 Studios. Now, the game did review quite favourably when it came out. I remember there was quite a lot of hype behind it. A lot of people like the aesthetic look of the game. Personally, I think it looks a lot like a Fable game, and we weren't really getting a lot of Fable games back then. I think Fable 3 had just come out and left that a little bit of a bad taste in some people's mouths. But the game scored sort of like mid-table to like upper end table. Some people absolutely loved this game. IGN gave it a 9 out of 10 at the time. There was a few people that gave it a perfect score, and then there were other people that gave it like 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10. So it was really hit and miss. I think it just depended on what you like in a video game, and it is, I personally think it is a good B tier game. For me, this is one of them games that I can put in expecting to play like a couple of minutes and end up playing hours, like just sinking hours into the game. It engages you in a weird way that you just absolutely love it. Now, I have also talked about it a few times in this video so far, but I am going to wheel back to it now. One of the biggest selling points in this game is the customization of your character. You can do pretty much whatever you want with your character. It is narratively explained to you why you can do it as well, which I think makes very, very cool like gameplay choices. You do have this ability to just to go like god mode and absolutely execute everyone, and he has a very quick time event, which means that you have to like the harder you smash this button, the more XP you get from killing a character. So if you see here, this is like an execution. Smash the A button, it gives you a bonus to your XP, which I think is pretty cool. Now, the skill tree, they look like, well, you're going to see one in a second as to what they look like, but it is literally like a whole root nest of like all the things that you can customize, all the different ways you can do it. You get these different cards that give you different things, which is kind of like your classes. It works really well like that. But anyway, I've rambled a lot about this game. The only way you can decide if you like this game is to go out and play it yourself. I really recommend this to pretty much anyone. I think it's so fun. But yeah, that's me just talking about one of my favourite games of all time. Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, Re-Reckoning as well, that came out in 2020, published by THQ Nordic. One of my favourite RPGs, action RPGs of all time. If you did enjoy this video, please remember to like the video and subscribe to my channel, because like I say, there's always going to be videos coming out on this YouTube channel pretty much every weekday. Again, more and more. I've almost finished the Metal Gear Solid series, and then we're going to go into some other stuff. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.